Yeah. All right, it's the new year. I'm back doing wrench-ons. This is Andrew Doherty. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm gonna make this short, I promise. I swear. I say that every time. It ends up being an hour for a diff video. I'm sorry. Today we're gonna focus on speed control mounting. This is a special Mark Team Magoo edition wrench-on. And if you take a look, can you see the video in here? Most of your speed controls end up looking like this. Right? If you haven't had a speedo do this, you haven't raced long enough. It lifts off the board, especially with these newer chassis that have all this herringbone, missing material. It's hard to get enough surface area on there. Or sometimes you'll get it where it's mounted on there securely, but the tension from the motor wires ends up twisting this guy. And if you're like me, like here's my car, it just bugs me. It's just off that little bit, and it just kind of pisses me off. So I can't promise that I've guaranteed a way to fix that completely, but at least in this video we're going to look at how to get it better, or at least get it securely mounted so it's not flopping on you. So I'm just going to take this speed control out. I've already got my iron hot to unsolder the motor wires, and the first thing I'm having problems with is taking this receiver wire out. Just unplugging everything. Apologies to Mark's car for doing this quickly and hacking it to pieces. Oh, my sponge.
You break it, you buy it.
Fair enough. Alright, so I'm just taking the speedo out. Maybe if I get ambitious, I'll edit this part, because y'all don't want to see me burn my fingers and take all this wire apart.
See you guys later. Adios.
See you later, Doug. Alright, it's nice to have a nice warm iron. And I'm going to take the sensor wire off on here, Mark. Don't forget to put that back on and go to Kick Butt in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Alright, he's coming for you guys. Alright, so one of the first things I'll mention is, I wish I had the packaging for this. Johnny Fenimore loves to give me a hard time because he says it's the largest roll of servo tape he's ever seen, but I wrench for my mom and my dad and my son Lincoln and me, so cut it in 4 and you got the right size. It's 3M and it's gray. It's about 1 millimeter thick. I don't have a part number. There's nothing on the inside, but there's clear and there's black, and I just found this gray to be better than those other two. I've tried them all. I like the gray better. So the first thing we're going to do is peel off all the old stuff, and we're going to hit it with motor spray. Make sure there's no oil and residue, and of course we're going to need towels. Thank you. So you just want to get as much of this junk off of the bottom as you can. You want it to stick hard. And the same thing, if you can see in there, see how dirty the chassis can get just from racing? If you're like me and you clean the bottom of the chassis, you end up getting gunk that kind of weeps down in there. So I try to get as much of the aluminum clean and bare as possible. It's a whole lot easier when you're mounting it without everything else in there. But this is probably how you're going to do it, so it's better I do it the same way. Alright, nice and clean. And this is kind of it's not secret, but it's just something I came up with that I think helps. If you go back to my Facebook page, of course you all follow me, I know, all 3 of you. I've got a thread a couple of days ago about wetting of adhesives, and there's some trigonometry, and it's totally nerding out. I'll try to put a link in the bottom of this video. But it talks about basically how the adhesive flows onto the surface, and it increases, as you might expect, with heat. So I'm going to hit it with a heat gun. Obviously you don't want to cook your speedo holding it, and it does get hot enough that it'll burn you, so be careful. But you'll see that if you heat this and put the servo tape on there afterwards, it's stuck. You might have noticed you'll put a speedo on there, and if you remove it the next day, it's easy to get off. But if you put it on there and race in the summer and leave it on there for 4 months, like, it's not going anywhere, and it doesn't want to come off. And I believe that is from the heat cycles that it goes through. So, get it hot. I have no idea what that temperature is.
We should grab the temp gun.
I have one. You want to go? Mark, you want to grab it?
Bring it up.
Yeah, it's right up there, kind of orange and black here. Obviously it cooled off. We'll do it again in just a second and we'll see it. I'm picky about getting these cut straight, and, but just servo tape, right? I like the special brand. If you don't like it, whatever. Oh, did you have that servoed on there, Mark? Okay. I'm going to leave that on there for now, and maybe I'll do another video about how we crimp those and shorten it so it's, more like what was on my car. All right, so.
Looks really pretty then.
Yeah. You have some experience with that, don't you? All right, so then I'll peel this, and you can see already, like, it's not coming off the Speedo. It's really well, I guess the scientific word is wetted, but yeah. And then I'll hit the chassis and the Speedo, or the tape on the Speedo more specifically, with the heat gun. You can kind of, I don't know if you can get a glare on there, but you can see the tape change. If you get it bubbling, that's definitely bad, but you can see the surface go from a gloss to a matte black, or just a matte finish, and that's kind of how I know it's done. It's real subtle. It's not something I think that's going to show up on the video very well, but at least you hear me talking about it. So that's pretty hot. We'll get the chassis hot and we'll temp it in just a second. You definitely don't want to stick that somewhere where it's going to sit down on there. 130. Yeah, I see it. I don't think I'm not going to melt it.
Famous last words.
Hold my beer. That's 200. So 200 degrees. I don't know if we're making numbers up. Maybe I'll have to use more time just to be safe. I think this is a regular 2-stage heater with like soft and kill. But I bet a hairdryer on full blast would work pretty well too. Now, I have been running the Hobby Wing and this X-Ray for long enough. I know that this shoulder, I like to start with the edge of the chassis just in terms of balance, and it's going to matter on what battery and how you balance it. But I try to space everything a millimeter apart. So I took just this is a protoform header card, and I'll slide it in there, and then I get the cap to go underneath. Oh, I'm sorry. You get a cap full of video full of cap. And I'm just kind of lining it up with that shoulder. And you don't want to press it on there immediately because you want to have some working room. You can see already I've kind of got it off, but it sticks hard. Once you really press it on there, I used to put the cap up against the battery and use that as a backstop, but I don't like doing that anymore because it's not secure enough and it would start pushing on the Speedo and everything. So now I've got a millimeter gap here. In a perfect world, I would have put the receiver on too. There'd be a millimeter gap, so if there's any flex, it lets everything move freely without binding up. But that's more or less the secret there. You're going to secure it, plug everything back in, put your sense wire back in. I would wait before putting these, so Mark, remember this, maybe give it a day or two before you put it back on there. It seems to hold better if you don't put the tension on it. The tension trying to twist it comes from these motor wires, which especially in mod when you're running 12 gauge, it's thick enough that over time it just sits there and slowly leverages it around. But let it sit for a day or two. If you don't have time, that's fine. That's why mine looks the way it does, because put it on there, and then just make sure it's square for you. You could try to play around with like counter twisting it. If it twists one way, put it on there the other way, and maybe it'll twist it to center. It's not a super precise way of doing it, but.
So what are you going to do with all my wires now?
I'll put them in there. We just don't need to get a video of me fingering your car like that. Anyway, as always, thanks to Hobby Wing, thanks to Protoform Avid. I'm going to forget something. I look like a jerk, Oh, wait, my title sponsor.
Right.
Yeah. RC America, Hoodie, X-Ray. Those guys are awesome. Pro One. My newest sponsor, R1. Thanks a lot to Steve for helping me out. I appreciate it.
There's a couple.
Look at my Facebook, subscribe down below. I'd sure appreciate it. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, hit me up, message me, let me know. Thanks a lot, guys.